Yo, what's good? Salutations to nations. It's your boy Young Sinai. So, today I'm going to be taking a look at the Mario Kart Direct. I haven't seen it. I know it came out earlier, but look, y'all got to understand. I got a whole family, you feel me? When this stuff be happening, Nintendo be airing this stuff like early in the morning and stuff. I be getting my daughter ready for the school bus. Same thing happened with the Direct. But look, if you subscribed to the channel, I'm sorry, but this how it's going to be. You feel me? But I did wait for you guys to watch this. You feel me? I'm like, I got to watch this with the fellow Angel Knots. You know what I'm saying? So I was tempted. I ain't gonna hold you because I'm trying to see what are they trying to charge $80 for. But I watched 3 seconds of it. I'm like, nope, I'm gonna wait. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Y'all probably already seen it. I'm probably late. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look. Hope they don't got no copyrighted music. I have to mute this mug.
Drivers, start your engines. Welcome to the Mario Kart World game, available exclusively on the Nintendo Switch 2 system. What kind of races await you? In Mario Kart World, you'll aim for first place in each Grand Prix. But why stop there?
Hey, Mario. Mario was breakdancing while he was driving. Okay, Mario, I see you.
Plains, a desert, and even the ocean. You can drive
That's hard.
virtually everywhere in this fully interconnected world. Races are held on courses scattered throughout various regions that span this world, and you can freely drive between them.
Yeah, that looks fun.
There's a lot in store, and we're only at the starting line. Let's introduce some of the courses that are waiting for you. Here we go!
I really hope this funky jazz track isn't copyrighted. Well, we'll see.
Courses are found throughout the world, inspired by their surrounding region. Let's take a look at some of the new courses to explore. Ride the ridges and roads on Mario Brothers Circuit. And cruise the curves around the canyon. You can't miss it. See the sights and structures of Crown City.
That look dope.
You can even soar in style down Main Street. Drift along the rapid waterways of Salty Speedway and make a splash around the city's canals. Stay cool in the snowy trails of Starview Peak. Just don't slip off while soaking up the scenery. Have a spirited showing at the ghostly movie theater Boo Cinema. It's a whole new kind of drive-in theater.
His his scary voice was not spooky at all.
And in addition to lots of new courses, there's Toad's Factory,
Okay.
Peach Beach, Wario Shipyard, and more.
Oh, I thought, okay, it's just showing the level. I thought it was saying like Toad's Factory was gonna be like some special thing we ain't never seen. It's just another level. Okay.
Nostalgic courses from past titles are also here, but now they're reimagined and spread throughout the world, where races can happen during the day or at night. Race as familiar characters like Mario, Luigi, Peach, Bowser,
I ain't gonna hold y'all. I haven't seen anything that's screaming $80 yet.
and Yoshi. Plus, new drivers like Goomba, Spike, and that's right, cow.
Oh my gosh.
Even more new racers are waiting and ready to roll.
Oh my gosh, my kids are gonna flip that you can get Baby Peach and Baby Daisy and Baby, what's that one's name? Rosetta Stone. What's her name?
Select your character.
Oh, hold on.
Choose your vehicle.
It say her name, but I'm blocked. My bad.
Then you're off to the races. Characters and vehicles each have different stats, so make sure to find the combo that best suits you. There are two main styles of race revving up in this world: Grand Prix and Knockout Tour. In both modes, up to 24 drivers can participate, the most in series history. Your rivals aren't the only hazards you'll need to avoid on the road. Look out for cars that...
Yo, this is a side note. This ain't about the game. Well, it's about Mario Kart, but not about this one specifically. I was watching a YouTuber. I don't remember who it was. Sorry. But, man, they made a super dope idea. You know how they got like the Tetris 99 and the F-Zero 99? They said they should do Mario Kart 99. Yo, that would be hard. That would sell the Switch too. That would be hard.
Shoot bullet bills, attacks from Hammer Brothers, and other obstacles along the way. Try to steer clear. And now, get ready for Grand Prix with Mushroom Cup, Flower Cup, Star Cup, and more. Grand Prix races are held all around the game's world. You'll race through 4 different courses in each cup and aim for the top spot. In Mushroom Cup, you'll start off racing around Mario Brothers Circuit, while the second race will take you from Mario Brothers Circuit to Crown City. For the first time, you'll need to drive yourself to the next course in Grand Prix, so don't sleep at the wheel. And if you conquer all Grand Prix Cups, rumor has it that a certain colorful course will appear. Next up is a new mode, Knockout Tour. From Golden Rally to Ice Rally and more. These extended races take you from one end of the world to the other.
These are some beautiful levels though, I ain't gonna hold you.
Ready for a sprint. But you've got to place if you want to stay in the race. Speed towards checkpoints throughout the world. If you don't make the cut, you're out of the running. Buckle up. The competition gets more intense as you close in on the checkpoint.
My bad. I don't know if I said it earlier when I brought up the Mario Kart 99. They were referring to the Super Nintendo, the original Mario Kart 99. I don't think I said that.
You've got to drive to survive in Knockout Tour. So keep your eyes on the prize and aim for first place. Items can drastically change the outcome of a race. Here are some new items that'll help you out. Coin shell. When you throw a coin shell, coins will appear. Now's your chance to grab them. Just don't let your rival...
Man, I know I'm slow. I feel slow for asking this question. But can y'all answer in the comments, what are the point of coins in Mario Kart? Like, I never understand, why am I picking up coins? I know it serves a purpose, obviously. But, you know, like when you're playing Mario, Super Mario, the game, it's like, you know, you get 100 coins. Okay, you get a new life or something. But on Mario Kart, I'm like, why am I collecting coins? Please explain it to me. I understand all the other power-ups, but the coins, I don't understand what I'm doing.
Rivals cash in first. Ice Flower. With the Ice Flower,
oh, that's
you can
dope.
Freeze out rivals and send them spinning. Hammer. Aim the hammer in an arc and nailed it. Hammers also
sick.
stay on the course for a short time and can be used to block off rivals.
Mega Mushroom.
With the Mega Mushroom,
Oh, okay.
go big, so your rivals will go home. Feather. Use the feather to jump up and avoid attacks. You may even discover some unexpected routes.
Yo, that's so sick how it can
Comet.
grind now.
With Comics Magic, your rivals will transform. What other mysterious effects will happen? You'll have to see for yourself. The lower your placement, the more likely you are to find items that'll turn the tables. So when you get items, go for it. And if you're new to the Mario Kart series, there are added support features to help you along the way. These include smart steering, which helps you stay on the course.
This isn't new. Wait, is it? Maybe that is new. My bad. I think that's new. Yeah, that's new. I was thinking about, like on the Switch where you can have like the automatic acceleration or whatever.
Tilt controls, where you can hold a Joy-Con 2 controller horizontally and use motion controls to steer. And if you have the Joy-Con 2 wheel, you can feel like you're really driving. Whew, how about a quick break? A snack sounds good right about now. Hey, look, it's a drive-thru. Here at Yoshi's, you can grab an order to go. Dash food. Take a bite, and you can unlock outfits inspired by your meal.
Okay.
Eat some sushi and... Whoa, nice threads. Once unlocked, these outfits can be selected from the character selection screen.
That's cool.
Who knows what dishes or outfits you'll find? Make a pit stop and check out these drive-thrus all around the world. That was a nice detour. Now let's get back to the action.
You can tell that they put like a lot of like creative thought into this, and it seems like there's a lot of love put into the game. I like how it's you can get a Yoshi burger to change your costume versus just charging us for different costumes. That's cool. That's appreciated, Nintendo. Thanks. I guess they figure we'll charge them all up front. Won't have to charge them on the back end.
Let's introduce some new tricks that'll help you ace each race. Charge jump. You can now use a charge jump by holding the drift button while driving straight ahead. Charge and release to jump. Use this to leap over obstacles.
Okay.
Grind along power lines and dodge attacks from your rivals. And if you jump toward a wall, you can wall
I like how it's like Mario Kart, Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
ride for a short period of time. Chain some tricks together, and you may even reach places like this. Ah, so close. Almost there. Whenever this happens, be kind and rewind. This will return your vehicle to its original position.
Wait,
Nice,
what?
made it. This can come in handy when mapping out how to best approach a course. Keep in mind, though, your rivals will still move normally when you rewind.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like that seems kind of counterproductive, but okay.
So don't lose your lead. Want to take a spin in even more races? In time trials, it's you against the clock. Here you can race without any other competitors.
That's cool.
And if you go online, you
Hey, Wario Fit look hard there. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, Wario Fit look kind of dope. He look like he going through a midlife crisis, and he's just really trying to tap back into his youth. But it works for him,
You can download and compete against ghost data from racers around the world. Customize the rules of the road in Versus Race. You can use the classic rule set of running 3 laps within the same course, or you can choose to drive the distance from one course to another. You can even take the road less traveled and choose routes that aren't in Grand Prix or Knockout Tour. Up to 24 drivers can now compete in 2, 3, or even 4 teams. Group up and get ready to put the pedal to the metal. Next up, Battle Mode. Pop off locally or online in Balloon Battle. Use items to burst your rivals' balloons. Pop them all and your rivals out. And Coin Runners, where you can go for the gold by collecting the most coins. Race or battle, enjoy whatever drives you.
Here's one thing that I do appreciate with this game. If they're going to charge so much, is that it's not just the racing, right? It's like a bunch of different mini games, different ways that you can play the game. Still not really I'm not trying to justify their price, but I do appreciate that versus it just being the same game the entire time. Like, there are multiple different ways you can play this game, which I appreciate. This is what I'm most excited about, is free roam.
When you're not racing, you can enjoy free roam and go wherever your heart takes you. No roads? No problem. Ride the rivers.
That's the new Donkey Kong model. That's what's up. I mean, obviously they would use it, but, you know, it's dope, the continuity.
See the seas. Drive the desert.
When I was a kid, I used to call those things Yoshi burgers.
Or jump off from way up here. You can go wherever you like, even to the edges of the world. Hey, there's a P-switch over there. Hit hundreds of P-switches you find across the world to start missions. By completing them, you can hone your driving ability outside of races. There are also hidden coins, hidden panels, and more.
Dang, man, this game looking dope, man. They gonna actually end up making me buy this mug, man. I hate Nintendo, man.
So take the scenic route and explore. Also, during free roam, you can take photos whenever you like. Strike a pose. Look at the camera. Choose a frame to decorate, and nice. That one's a winner. If one person has Mario Kart World, up to 4 players can race in split screen on the same system. The game also supports local wireless play. Up to 8 players, with up to 2 players on each system, can race together this.
I like that I've seen a couple of the enemies from Super Mario World appear, like the dolphins, for example, that just showed, as well as when they turned the characters. I can't remember what the move was called, but they turned into a bunch of different characters, and they had the frog dude with the football helmet. That's what's up, that they, that they're incorporating that as well.
This way. And up to 24 players from around the world can join a race or battle in online play. This may look like free roam, but this is where you'll wait while your friends join you. looks like someone's arrived. Yep, you can meet up with your crew anywhere in this world. By checking the map, you can quickly see where your friends are and travel to their location. Battle or race with custom rules. Or just go for a ride together. Make this road trip your own. You can also take photos together along the way, if that's more your...
I like that, how they, paying homage to the original Mario Kart. Yo, you know it would be dope. I know this ain't really Grand Theft Auto, obviously, because it's Mario Kart. But it would be dope if you could. I know you cannot do this, but I wish the characters could, like, get off of their carts and, like, walk around. You know what I'm saying? Am I tripping? I think that would be dope.
Your speed.
I know that's not going to happen on this, obviously, but maybe in the future or something. Probably not.
With Game Chat, enjoy an expanded experience by talking online with friends. Use the built-in microphone to voice chat while driving together.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
All of them just say, let's go. They can't think of something, Everybody, okay, let's go.
It's out. Nice. Are you kidding me? All right.
Or take a back seat and
that's
watch
dope.
each other's game screens.
Oh.
If you have a Nintendo Switch 2 camera, you can enjoy seeing your friends' reactions while playing together. Who's close by?
Who plans on getting the camera? Let me know if you plan on getting the camera. I don't see any purpose for it whatsoever, and I don't need another device spying on me. That's just me, though.
Wait, who just passed me? You'll be able to tell in an instant. Aim a shell and bullseye. And when playing together in person on the same system, a single camera can detect up to 4 people's faces.
I bet it can.
Enjoy the view and get ready to face off with your friends.
I mean, this is absolutely the best Mario Kart so far. Like, I'm not even big in the Mario Kart. I like it, but this looks fun.
A transcontinental race around the world is just around the corner in Mario Kart World, available exclusively on Nintendo Switch 2. A hardware bundle that includes a digital version of Mario Kart World will also be available.
All right, yeah. So that looked dope. I hate Nintendo. I hate them with such a passion. I love their products. I do not like the company. Oh my gosh, that makes me want it. I don't feel like spending that money. I don't have that money to spend. I'm going to be responsible. I'm going to budget for it. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and watch some more stuff. I got some more stuff lined up. I appreciate everybody who's tuning in. You know what I'm saying? But let's go ahead and keep it pushing. All right, look. I saw this a while back, but I wanted you guys to see because I thought it was super dope. It can definitely be useful. And it reminded me of Mega Man low key. But let's see. Look at this. Scientists in Japan develop a wearable robot with 6 arms in a first step towards a cyborg future. Look at this. This video is not long at all. Look at that. It's like Doc Ock in real life.
この腕の特徴はですね、こうやって
The main feature of these arms is not just to give people more than 2 arms,
人の2本の腕以上にたくさん腕を増やせるってことだけではなくて、
but to be able to remove and attach
背
them
中のソケットでですね、外したりつけたり、
to share with other people via the sockets on the back. What?
付け替えると今はこういう
In
腕の
terms of swapping right now, we only
例えば
have...
将来
Dang, he's
背
going
中
a
か
little
ら
too fast. Y'all can read.
ドローンをつけたり
Hit pause.
さまざまなアタッチメント
You
を
can
付け
attach a
替え
drone.
しながら、いろんな能力を獲得していく、そういうようなこともできるんじゃないかなというふうに思っています。
Yeah, that was a really short video. But
So, imagine
whoa. My bad. That was a really short video, but I thought that was pretty cool, man. I love how, technology is being used to help people. I'm not sure what purpose that's going to serve. But I'm sure that it will serve a purpose. It's not my job to figure out what purpose it'll serve. Okay. All right, we're gonna touch on some Power Ranger stuff, okay? First we gonna touch on the Black Ranger. He is missing a finger. You guys know that? I used to work with a dude named Floyd, and I borrowed his Goonies DVD because he was like, man, you gotta see the Goonies, man. The Goonies, that's like one of the greatest shows of all time. So he let me borrow his Goonies DVD, but I bring that up. He loaned it to me 11 years ago. I still haven't watched it because I have ADHD. And when he told me that I needed to watch it, I'm like, man, I ain't gonna watch this. So I borrowed it for 11 years. I still need to return it. I plan on watching it though. Anyways, his cousin was the Black Ranger. That's what he told me. Everybody claims to have a famous family member, as a famous person as a family member. Like he said, yeah, man, like he's missing his finger and everything. And so when he said that, I was like, oh, this is proof. This is proof, because that wasn't like common knowledge. Maybe I'm just gullible, but I think it is his cousin. But let's take a look at this. He's talking about how he lost his finger. All right, let's hold on. And then we're going to get into some more stuff surrounding the Black Ranger here in a sec. All right, boom.
I have a question for you, Walter.
Talk to me.
I apologize if this is a sensitive subject, but I just noticed on your left hand that you're missing a finger.
Dang, that's hecka rude. You don't ask nobody that. I mean, we all watching the video trying to figure out why he lost it, but you don't just ask somebody that. How did you lose your finger on camera? This dude ain't got no chill.
Oh, damn it! I dropped it again.
Yeah.
Look, if you find a new cushion, mail it to me.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, let me know.
Well, we told the alligator story.
Yes, exactly. We did. Well, you know what? When I was a kid, I found a gun in my house.
Oh,
I
snap.
thought it was a toy. It was a Derringer. Those
Oh,
Derringers are
wow.
like those little small guns.
Derringers
like
are
2
cool.
bullets. Yeah, they're cool. They're cool unless you're 4 years old and
Oh, wow.
you don't know what you're doing.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, so
This dude gonna get his parents locked up, like retroactively.
found a Derringer, and my sister and I argued about it because we thought it was a cap gun, and we were trying to shoot each other. The safety
Oh
was on
my
it.
gosh.
And then I took it from my sister, guarantee her I was gonna fix it and just be patient, and we'll shoot it in a moment. My sister went and told my mother on me. Mom, Walter took the gun from me. My mother said, "What gun?" And at that point, I pulled back the safety, pulled back the latch on it, and it wouldn't go back down. And I thought I'd broken it, and I was trying to fix it, and I just pulled the trigger, and it went off in my hand, and I lost my finger. Yeah,
Wow.
shattered the bone at 4 years old. If anybody finds it, if you let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably wouldn't fit anymore.
It wouldn't fit. I don't know. It kind of be weird.
Yeah.
But I can't say that it was a problem. Actually, it was a benefit in some ways. I wasn't able to learn to type because the teacher didn't want to give me extra attention. I wasn't able to go to the military because you can't lose 2 digits, 2 joints. can't lose two joints and be in the military.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think I heard of that
because I
one.
almost went to the Air Force.
I was in the Air Force
Oh,
for a
see,
couple
look at
years.
that.
Yeah.
They were like,
This dude getting on my nerve. I don't even know who he is. But he's like, how did you lose your finger? And he's like, oh, you didn't get to be in the Air Force? Oh, I got to be in the Air Force. It's like, dog, chill.
sorry, son, you can't join the military. You're missing two joints. I was like, but what? I mean, it's not stopping me. But
Yeah.
I wasn't able to, so not type. I tried to learn piano, but it was difficult. And guitar was difficult. I needed a left-handed guitar. But it did keep bullies away. Because oddly enough, the girls loved the fact that I was missing a finger. That come up to me in class and go, "Excuse me, somebody told me that you're missing a finger." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And they were like, "Can I see it?" And I'll go, "Yeah." And I'll put my hand out on the table, and they would reach down and touch it, and then I move it, and they go,
I'm not laughing at the fact that he's missing a finger. I'm laughing at the fact that I mean, I've never been a girl before, right? But I don't know if that's something, I don't know if that story's true. Or I don't know if girls was like, I don't know if he interpreted that wrong. Like, oh, girls like me because I'm missing a finger. Like, I don't know if that's a thing. Is that a thing? If you're missing a finger or missing anything, let me know if that's like a turn on for girls. I don't think so.
and they're like, oh, hey, you could touch it. And they would touch it, and they were like, "Oh, that feels cool." And then like they were intrigued. But the boys were like, "No, man, get that away from me. No, man, hell no."
Yeah,
no.
it's catching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like they gonna catch the missing fingers. So one time I was walking to school, and at that point when I was younger, we had safety boys. I think they would have different kids that would volunteer to help people walk across the street.
And they get the little strap.
And they got the little orange belt, right? So this kid was probably a problem child and was a bully, and they thought, well, we'll give him a duty, and that might help him. So here I am, late for school, and I'm walking. I get to this intersection. I got to walk across the street, and I'm looking up and down, and there's no traffic coming. And I start walking across the street. Well, the kid goes, "Hey, I didn't tell you could walk across the street. Get back over there." And I'm like, "Bro, there's no car. What are you doing?" And it's wintertime in Detroit. I'm wearing gloves, right? So I'm standing there, and he's like, "All right, you can go now." So as we walk across the street, I fix my glove, I close my hand, and that middle finger is sticking straight up. Right? So he sees it. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I left my hand up," and he goes, "Oh, yeah?" And I'm like, "Oh, I realize now he thinks I'm flicking him off."
Yeah.
And he walks over and he goes, "Apologize." I'm like, "I'm not apologizing for anything. I'm trying to get to school." He's like, "You better apologize. I won't hurt you." And I was like, "What?" And I know there's nothing there. It's not going to hurt.
He gonna try to break his finger.
Grabs it. He starts bending it all over the place. It's like he's trying to break my
Jesus.
finger. He's like, "Say you're sorry." And I'm like, "Stop it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what are you doing? Stop it." He's like, "Say you're sorry." And finally, I just stop moving. And I go, "I'm not saying anything." He goes, "What?" And he goes harder at it. He's going at it.
Jesus.
He's trying to hurt me.
How does this dude not realize that there's no finger in this?
And he goes, "How come that won't hurt you?" And I take off my glove, and I go, "Because I got the 4 fingers of death." And I put it on his neck, and he's like, Stop it. This kid
That's
never
great.
bothered me ever again.
Yeah. Oh
But
God.
I had seen an old martial arts movie where the
cool.
master lost a finger, and he like strengthened it or whatever, and they called him the 4 fingers of death. So I had the
rang
idea.
a bell. Yeah.
Right? 4 fingers of death.
4 fingers of death.
And I put it on his neck, and he never
That guy never heard of it. He's yeah, 4 finger. He ain't never heard of it. I ain't heard of it either, but I know he ain't heard of it.
bothered me again.
Yeah, the 4-finger death hold or something like that. That's pretty
Something
cool.
like that, right?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now if you see me walking around in the wintertime and I have my hands closed, if that finger's sticking out, I'm not trying to flick you off. I'm just missing a finger. That's all.
That's right.
I think eventually I learned to take that little finger, stick it down in the glove. Yeah. So people didn't notice the missing finger so much when I was on Power Rangers, and we wore gloves, and so we did wear the suits occasionally, and take off our helmets, and do like different shots like that. And so I would have that little finger stuck down in the glove. so it wasn't as noticeable and like just kind of hanging and flinging around. I recall
I don't
doing
think
it.
everybody ever noticed that.
Well, people didn't. Like even today, people were like,
I noticed after my friend Floyd mentioned that he was missing a finger. Then I was looking for it specifically on the part where it's like, it's morphin' time. And I would like look and I would count the fingers. You can notice then if you're looking for it.
"You're missing a finger." I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like,
Yeah.
"When did that happen?" I'm like, "Oh, it was 4." But really, I'm like, I watched all your episodes. I never noticed it. I'm like, yeah.
Well, I was older than 4.
Yeah, I was older than 4, exactly. So it's all
Did they
good.
ever try and work that into a story on Power Rangers regarding your finger?
No, and they never brought attention to it. It wasn't, and I probably wouldn't have wanted them to.
Yeah, why bother?
I didn't need that to be, part of the story.
Yeah,
But, like,
yeah.
he's
Yo, that random guy jumping up out of the cut out of nowhere. I'm like, whoa, what is it? I thought that it had went to a commercial or something. Then he's asking about the finger. That was kind of like very random. I'm sorry, I've never seen this show before.
the 4-finger ranger. That would kind of been kind of weird.
Yeah. No,
know.
I'll pass.
Yeah, I'll pass. It's fine.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's-
There's the 4-footed cat.
but it's interesting now. A 4-footed cat. Yeah, I saw him. It's interesting now that people will walk up to me and they'll be like, "Wait, are you the Black Ranger?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And they're like, "Let me see your left hand."
Oh, like proof.
Yeah, 'cause
That way, you don't
it's on
not just some
IMDb
other-
or it's on something. They're like
Oh, okay.
missing a finger on his left hand. Let me see your hand. I'm like, they're like, "It is him."
Yeah.
That's him. Oh my god. Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool calling card.
Right.
Sort of upside down
Exactly. I'm
compliment.
like, okay.
At least, he is positive about it. And he doesn't let it annoy the crap out of him. Cause I ain't gonna hold you. If I had a missing finger or something, and everybody, they just let me see your hand. That even having a conversation this long, 6 minutes and 56 seconds, I would be very annoyed. So, praise God that, he seems to be pretty positive about it. Okay, but keeping the Black Ranger news going, there was recently, I guess, a little bit of controversy going on regarding the Black Ranger and the Yellow Ranger. Rest in peace. So there was an article, and I was gonna read an article to you guys, but I'm actually just gonna skip right to a video that was a follow-up and avoid reading the article because I'll be honest, I don't feel like reading an article at 1:03 in the morning. My time. All right, so let's go ahead and check this out, and hopefully it touches on what it was about. All right, boom. All right, here we go. Appreciate y'all who tuning in. All right, 1 sec. I'm getting it pulled up right now. Okay, here it goes.
Reporting live from Hyper Club House in Atlanta for Hype Plus News, I'm Symphony Thompson. A new investigation discovery docuseries titled Hollywood Demons began airing last month, which features the behind-the-scenes stories from series like Power Rangers and Real Housewives. The head writer of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Tony Oliver, had recently...
Yo, they was doing my man's lining horribly. Oh my gosh. Look at this lining. This mug is a straight up circle. This is insanity. Look at this. Oh my gosh. They didn't have no black barbers on set. Like, what is this?
admitted it was a mistake to cast a black actor to play the Black Power Ranger and an Asian actor as the Yellow Power Ranger.
Yeah, that was always super, that always seems super racist, for real, for real.
In the series, Oliver would say, "None of us were thinking stereotypes. It was such a mistake." Walter Emmanuel Jones would play Zach Taylor, the Black Ranger, for 2 seasons between 1993 to 1995.
Boom, you can see it right there, him missing the finger. Right there.
Jones would catch wind of multiple outlets reporting the story and decided to take to Instagram to respond. Jones would screenshot and repost several headlines covering of the story and wrote, Incredible how many media outlets pick this up. However, while some choose to seek out the negative, I've always believed in focusing on the positive. I understand the impulse to address what might be seen as cultural insensitivity, but calling it a mistake would dismiss the impact it had on countless people around the world who found inspiration and representation in TV's first black superhero, morphing into none other than...
Was he the TV's first black superhero? Is that true? TV's first black superhero. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that. Y'all let me know. What is he? Is he? I can't really think of one. Shaft.
in the Black Power Ranger. It wasn't a mistake. It was a milestone. It was an honor. Now, just last month, Jones...
See, that's what I mean. Like the last video that we just watched. I like how he's positive about things, you know, because he could look at it and honestly, I thought he was going to take it a different type of way. I thought he was going to be like, you know, no, they knew exactly what they were doing. They were trying to be racist or whatever, but he didn't take that attitude towards it. He looked at it, you know, as a positive. So that's what's up.
Jones was featured on the Tuned In podcast with Jim Cummings, where he revealed he actually chose the color of his suit for the Power Ranger.
Oh, I didn't even know that. See, he should have chose the White Ranger or the Green Ranger.
There he said, I was happy about it when I first saw the suit. I might look cool in red. I know I don't look cool in blue because I've seen it. The black is what I wanted to wear. When I saw it, I said, I want this one. And they said, that's yours. When Jones broke his silence on social media, several online users would show their support. One social media user would write, never saw the Black Ranger as anything but a bad A hero. Go, Walter. Another social media user would share how seeing a Black Power Ranger growing up positively affected them growing up. The Black Ranger and the Yellow Ranger were awesome. Back in the 90s, we didn't care about race or color. We just loved the action, the teamwork, and the cool moves. Zach had the best dance fighting style, and Trini was strong, smart, and fearless. They were heroes to us, plain and simple. One more would judge the new generation of kids always looking for something to complain about. He said, today's generation is so soft and sensitive. None of us even...
That's a fact.
cared. We were entertained and loved what we saw. One user would even point out many of today's executives...
You can see it there. My bad. I ain't trying to keep pointing it out, but I mean, we just watched the whole video talking about it. And like I said, this is where I was able to notice it right here. The missing finger.
Suffer from white guilt. It was also revealed that Toy Trang, who played the Yellow Power Ranger, wasn't the first choice for the Yellow Ranger. The original actress, Audrey Dubois, would leave after being cast due to a pay dispute because the show featured a non-union cast. The New York Post reported the actors for the show earned around $750 per half-hour episode.
Man, you want to know who got ripped off? Is the dude who plays Zordon. Yo, I'm thinking that I might do a video just dedicated to him because he was done scandalous.
Comparatively,
if you know, you know.
Actors on union television shows were earning up to tens of thousands of dollars per episode. So, what do you guys think about Walter Jones's response to those who say casting him to play the Black Power Ranger was a mistake? Do you agree? Why or why not? Let us know in the comments below. And be sure to stay up to date with the latest news and comedy by subscribing right here to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell and select all so you can receive notifications to all of our content and not just some. Check out Hypers Club for all your cool and original merchandise and content. And for our YouTube viewers, if you like this story, send us a super thanks by hitting the button below, and you can tip us what you want to show your support.
Yeah.
Reporting live from Hyper Club House in Atlanta.
All right, yeah. So that was very interesting. I got some more things lined up. Let's go ahead. Let's keep it pushing. So this is about my favorite company that I love to hate and hate to love, Nintendo. Man, I hate Nintendo and love Nintendo at the same time. I feel like it's like a relationship. Now I don't want to say what type of relationship it is because I ain't trying to get demonetized. All right, so check it out. This is the man who Nintendo sued for $1.6 million. All right. Here we go.
So imagine you are Nintendo. In just 1 week, your next Mario game is about to be released. But then, disaster strikes. The game somehow pops up on the internet to download for free. This is obviously not good, so you dig for clues about who leaked the game. And before long, a name comes up. James Burt. You decide to sue him for $1.5 million. Here's what happened. So, first off, we need to talk about Australia real quick. Now, Australia is generally pretty unlucky when it comes to video games. Games generally cost more and come out later than the rest of the world. But in 2009, Nintendo decided to buck this trend with their new Mario game, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. For once, the game was set to launch first in Australia, then a few days later in America, a week after that in Europe, and almost a whole month later in Japan, where the game was actually developed. So, November the 12th, that was when New Super Mario Bros. Wii was set to be released in Australia, the earliest date in the world. And one person who was paying close attention to that date was 24-year-old James Burt.
That dude was 24. He looked like he's 37.
At the time, he was living with his parents, and he was a huge gaming fan. He'd bought just about every major console that came out since he was a teenager, and he also liked to chat on online gaming forums. And it was these forums that got him into so much trouble later on. Now, according to his father, as a parent, I can tell you that he's a very quiet lad. He's a fanatical computer game player, to his detriment. So yes, this is James Burt. Now, one day James was shopping in a large Australian shop, you'll have to guess which one, when he noticed something. That new upcoming Mario game, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, was available early. This was November the 6th, a full week before the official release date. James Burt grabbed the game and took it to the checkout, and they let him buy it. He was the first person in the world outside of Nintendo to own this game, and he was pretty happy about it. So James Burt headed home and started chatting on his gaming forums when the topic of New Super Mario Bros. Wii came up. Now, this part of the story is where things get a little tricky. According to James's father, his son was egged on by the other people in the forum to prove that he actually got the game early. Upload the files, people told him, until eventually James gave in and uploaded the data from his disk onto the forum. Now, it's worth pointing out that Wii games actually have certain copy protections that mean that people couldn't actually just double-click on the files James uploaded and start playing the game. However, it didn't take more than a day until members of the gaming forum had broken through these copy protections. And within 5 days, 50,000 people had downloaded and played New Super Mario Bros. Wii, a whole week before it had come out anywhere in the world. So that's what James Burt's dad said happened. However, according to Nintendo...
Man, James Burt's dad went on Reddit. He don't know what these people... He just saying anything just to have his son back.
Things went down a little differently. They claim that rather than being pressured into uploading...
That dude looked like a character off of Friends with that shirt.
...the data to prove that he really did get the game early, James Burt actually directly messaged a bunch of well-known members of the forum and sent them the data to try and make himself look cool, I guess. Obviously, we don't know which version of events is true. Nintendo is going to be biased against James, whereas his dad is obviously going to be biased in his favor. In truth, the actual events are probably somewhere in between. But the end result is the same. Before the end of the week, New Super Mario Bros. Wii had been downloaded for free 50,000 times. And unsurprisingly, Nintendo didn't exactly ignore this. As they themselves stated, Nintendo was able to employ the use of sophisticated technological forensics to identify the individual responsible for illegally copying the file and
AKA, they got on Reddit.
making it available for further distribution. Now, they don't state exactly how they figured out James Burt's identity, but before even a month had gone by, Nintendo obtained a federal court search order, which would let them search James Burt's home. And during this search, they seized some of James's property, most likely his computer, which they claim served as further evidence against him.
Them Nintendo ninjas is real out there, man. Them Nintendo ninjas is real.
In other words, James Burt was busted. Nintendo had rock-solid proof that he was the leaker who uploaded their game onto the internet. And thus began the legal action. James Burt was brought to federal court for breaching Australia's Copyright Act. And
Yo, not... Yo, shout outs to people in Australia, but I'm sorry, but I find this to be hilarious. Let me run it back. Hold on. Not their seal has a kangaroo. I'm sorry, Australia. That's just funny to me. I'm sorry. It's late. I'll blame it on me being tired.
Burt was brought to federal court for breaching Australia's Copyright Act. And there really wasn't any question of guilt. It was very obvious that James Burt was guilty, and the case only took 4 months to settle. The result? James was ordered to pay 1.5 million Australian dollars to Nintendo to recuperate the lost sales Nintendo could have made. Or, as Nintendo phrased it, the legal proceeding resulted in a settlement in which the individual will pay to Nintendo the sum of $1.5 million by way of damages to compensate Nintendo for the loss of sales revenue caused by the individual's actions. However, that wasn't the end of the demands. James Burt also had to pay Nintendo's legal fees, a hefty $100,000. Plus,
excuse me. See, now Nintendo just being petty. Okay, I understood the damages, but Nintendo got the money to go to court. I mean, let's be for real. That's Nintendo's favorite place to be. They like being in court more than they like developing games. Okay, so for them to make him pay for his legal fees, their legal fees too, that's crazy. They're just doing the most.
Plus, he was forbidden from commenting publicly on the case. His father, though, was not.
That's why I was wondering, we keep hearing about what his dad has to say, but what does he have to say? But I guess this is why.
Subject to the same restrictions, and so he went to great lengths to defend his son's name. It was peer pressure on the internet forums and the blog sites that led him to do a very, very silly thing to prove that he'd actually managed to purchase a game before its release date, his father stated. It was certainly done with no malice or intent to make money. And
was his dad his lawyer or something? Like, I feel like the lawyer should be making these statements, not the dad. I think that the lawyer would make it, dress it up a little bit more.
That seems like the end of the story, but there's one final, slightly bizarre footnote. 3 years later, James Burt popped up on Reddit to say this. Hey there, James Burt from Australia here. Just saying, I think it's ironic that out of everyone in Australia they could have chosen, I get given a Ganon statue for being a good customer of Nintendo. Yeah, so years after the lawsuit had ended and James Burt had paid his dues, Nintendo decided to gift him a Ganon amiibo. I was given a phone call from my local EB
Yo, that's so random. Nintendo is petty.
Games saying Nintendo chose me and to come pick it up. No actual reason for winning, and EB Games had no info.
I would not trust going to pick up anything from Nintendo after they done sued you. You tell me, are you walking into that Nintendo building? Nah, man, y'all better ship that to a P.O. box.
on it, just that I won. No papers came with it, just the figure in a Nintendo brown box. I'm very grateful they chose me, don't get me wrong, and I do still love Nintendo after being sued.
That's the thing, man. That's how you know Nintendo's such a good company. Like, you hate them. You hate their guts, but you still love them. That's how I feel.
So, I personally think it's kind of immoral to sue an individual for such a huge amount of money. Obviously, piracy is a crime, but like...
When I say I hate their guts, I'm not talking about them as individuals. I'm just saying the company and the way that they operate. I just want to make that clear.
No one died, no one was hurt, and New Super Mario Bros. Wii ended up selling over 30 million copies. So, I think Nintendo ended up doing just fine for themselves. But $1.6 million, equivalent to about £850,000, that is an amount that changes your life forever. Unless you're like Jeff Bezos, that is going to take a long time to pay off. Still, James Burt seems to be doing fine. In the years since the lawsuit, he's started multiple online gaming blogs, which is cool, and he doesn't seem to be bitter, which is impressive. I think that if I was in his situation, I would have a lot more resentment harbored up inside of me. I guess we should all aspire to be a bit more like James Burt, other than the piracy thing, of course.
Nintendo super petty. How do I feel about this? I mean, he was in the wrong because he uploaded the ROM, you know, so that's probably why he didn't feel too salty, because he was probably like, well, you know, I knew that there was a risk that I was taking. But you know who I didn't hear get in trouble was the store that sold it to him. They didn't face any type of legal repercussions for their actions for putting it out on the shelves early. I feel like Nintendo should be upset with them too, right? Am I tripping? All right, so let's go ahead to the next video. All right, so we talked about Mario Kart. We talked about Nintendo being bums. We talked about Power Rangers. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to Pokemon, okay? So this video is by GameSpot. It's The Complicated Business of Pokemon. All right, let's go ahead and check it out. Boom. Hold up. Nintendo is a complicated. I'm not sure what this video is going to talk about specifically, but they have a kind of.
Mario is one of the most recognized.
Sorry, they have a kind of complicated infrastructure because I think it's like owned by Nintendo, but it's also owned by the Pokemon Company, and it's owned by Creatures Inc. So it's like a lot of. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I don't know what they're going to talk about. Let's see. All right.
There's a common misconception I see a lot when it comes to Pokemon, that Nintendo owns Pokemon.
Oh, so this is kind of going to get into what I was talking about. Okay.
Now that is only partially true.
Remember when Nintendo share prices shot up shortly after Pokemon Go was released, only to drop when Nintendo issued a statement informing investors that it did not create Pokemon Go?
I certainly do, and I still can't believe people missed that.
Since Pokemon's inception, the franchise has been synonymous with Nintendo, but it's a lot more complicated than that. Yes, Nintendo plays.
Oh, I left Game Freak out of the mix when I just named everything. All right, what am I thinking?
A huge role in Pokemon and its future, especially when it comes to the games.
But Pokemon is entirely its own pocket monster. God, this thing is huge.
Pokemania, as it was called in 1998, took the world by storm, but Pokemon's meteoric rise to success didn't happen overnight. In an interview with Pokemon's creators, Tsunekazu Ishihara and Shigeki Morimoto from 2010, they both recall Pokemon Red and Green's sluggish start. The games were in development for 6 years and they finally dropped at the end of the Game Boy's life cycle in 1996.
And revived everything. Like the Game Boy was out of here. Then when Pokemon came, oh, heck no. Man, everybody had a Game Boy, man. Oh, it was good. It was good times. There was no time like it, for real. Man, Man.
Ishihara put it, they may have missed the last train. But thanks to word of mouth and CoroCoro Comic, a Japanese monthly manga magazine, Pokemon began to pick up steam in Japan. Sales grew exponentially, and there was even talk of bringing Pokemon overseas.
But that never happened. Pokemon stayed in Japan, and no one ever really thought about it again. At least we got this cool Pokemon Green version to remember it by. Kidding, of course.
Pokemon made its debut in North America in 1998 with Red and Blue, and the games were followed by a trading card game, a TV show, movies, merchandise, and so.
It's so crazy to think about like how the video game came before the anime.
Much more.
The Pokemon craze was unlike anything.
Oh, let me tell you something. Hold on, let me rewind it. Hold on.
Movies, merchandise, and so much more.
Boom. Okay. You see that Pokedex? I had that Pokedex. Okay. I bought it off a kid. No, I didn't buy it. I traded it from a kid at school. And then my dad was like, my dad, rest in peace. He was like, yeah, you have to give it back. You have to trade it back. You know, you have to give them back their toy. I'm like, dude. I'm thinking, dude, this isn't a toy. This is a Pokedex. You feel me? Now I look on eBay. Those things going for like $80.
The Pokemon craze was unlike anything the world had ever.
That's the second mistake that my dad made with Pokemon. My bad, y'all. I'm going to get... Hold on. I'm hitting all the wrong buttons. I'm getting heated. The other mistake that my dad made with Pokemon is, and I've told this before, I had a Pokemon starter deck, okay? And I had a holographic Machamp in it. And this was the first starter deck. And my dad was like, whatever you do, do not give or trade this card. Whatever you do, do not give it away. Man, I had people coming to me with holographic Charizards. And like nobody really knew the worth or value of these cards. And so I was like, no, my dad told me don't trade it. Don't trade it. Man, so I was so stupid obeying my parent.
Ever seen before. It seemingly blew up overnight, and despite all the naysayers, it never really faded away.
Parents should not let their kids watch Pokemon, play Pokemon, buy Pokemon cards, have anything whatsoever to do with Pokemon.
Yo, if you a good parent, make sure that your kid watches Pokemon and plays Pokemon and has everything to do with Pokemon. That's coming from one parent to another.
Because the message is violence.
My son currently thinks that he's Pikachu. He's 3.
There was an incredibly high demand for anything and everything Pokemon that Nintendo, developer Game Freak, and support studio Creatures were simply not equipped to handle. Licensing deals and pitches flooded all 3 offices, and for a while, Ishihara was in charge of that entire department.
As demand grew at an accelerated rate, it became clear that in order to meet that demand, Pokemon needed something centralized. Thus, the Pokemon Center was founded in 1998 as a joint venture between Nintendo, Game Freak, and Creatures, and was later renamed to the Pokemon Company in 2000.
Each entity owns roughly a third of the Pokemon Company, and each organization contributes to the franchise in different...
I want to know who owns which part so I can be mad. I can know which part of the company I'm mad at certain points. Okay, I can blame Nintendo for putting out these lackluster games, okay? Or can I blame Game Freak? I need to know who I'm specifically blaming for different parts of my hate for Pokemon. I love Pokemon, but I'm saying certain parts where y'all know, you know what I'm saying?
Different ways, with the Pokemon Company being at the center of it all.
So broadly speaking, Game Freak develops the mainline series, Nintendo publishes the video games, and Creatures handles the cards and spin-offs.
Okay, so I'm mad at Nintendo specifically. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
However, even that is an oversimplification here.
Okay.
These 3 companies constantly overlap and work in tandem when it comes to Pokemon.
Okay, so I still don't know who I'm mad at.
For example, since Pokemon X and Y, Creatures has been instrumental when it comes to 3D modeling. This cooperative spirit goes all the way back to the beginning, and oddly enough, Nintendo's late president Satoru Iwata was an instrumental part of this. At the time, he was the president of HAL Laboratory and a board member at Creatures. HAL Laboratory and Nintendo were tasked with bringing Pokemon's battle mechanics to the Nintendo 64 with Pokemon Stadium.
Did you have Pokemon Stadium? That game was dope. I miss innovation in games, man. That was so cool how you could put the cartridge in the back of the joystick and something. They don't got innovation no more, man. I mean, they do, but it's just something about that time period.
According to Iwata, there was no specification doc, so he did what any president would do. He ported Pokemon's combat system to the Nintendo 64 in a week, a feat that Morimoto, Pokemon's original gameplay designer, didn't know was possible.
As things progressed, Iwata ended up being an unofficial liaison between Nintendo, Game Freak, and Creatures during Pokemon's early years. So what exactly does the Pokemon Company do if it doesn't directly develop the mainline games or create the cards? Well, a bit of everything as it turns out. Localization, marketing, event planning, merch production, and publishing. After all, Pokemon Go was not published by Nintendo. Basically, anything Pokemon related goes through the Pokemon Company at some point or another. And as of 2021, Pokemon as a whole was valued at $92 billion, making it the highest grossing entertainment property of all time.
But hold on, if Game Freak is backed by two of the wealthiest entertainment companies in the world, and they theoretically have the support of thousands of employees across multiple organizations, how come Pokemon Scarlet and Violet look like, well, this?
That's literally what I was about to say. That's why I paused it. But I was like, let him finish his thought. But that is my, oh my gosh.
Angel Knot.
Man, I'm sorry. I keep hitting the wrong button because I'm so frustrated. That makes me so angry, man. How Pokemon is worth so much money. It's one of my favorite franchises. How is it that it's worth so much money, but the games look so bad? And on top of it, and this is the part I will never understand, how do they have one of the biggest animes, but all of the games have no voiceovers? Why not just borrow some people from the animes and have them do the voiceovers? Like, I don't understand. But I know why. It's because we keep buying this trash that they keep selling us. But yeah, man, that's so freaking annoying. Excuse me.
Well, remember, Nintendo does not own Game Freak, and neither does the Pokemon Company. Game Freak is an independent studio, and a relatively small one at that, with 169 employees as of 2022. Now, that may seem like a lot, but not every employee was working on Scarlet and Violet in unison. For comparison, Breath of the Wild's development team was nearly double that, with 300 people. Meanwhile, some AAA studios like Naughty Dog and CD Projekt Red have significantly more employees, and they don't regularly release a new game every few years. Since Black and White in 2010, Game Freak has released a new Pokemon generation every 3 years while juggling multiple projects at once, some of which aren't even Pokemon games. In 2015, they teamed up with Sega for Tembo the Badass Elephant. In 2019, they released Little Town Hero for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, and they are currently working with...
That game look kind of tight. Hold on, I'm gonna run that back. This game look cool. Pokemon should have some... I wouldn't be mad if a Pokemon game looked like this. Would you guys?
Little Town Hero for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One.
I wouldn't be mad if a Pokemon game looked like that, I don't think.
And they are currently working with Private Division to develop a AAA action-adventure game called Project Bloom.
Wow.
So when Game Freak is working on a Pokemon game, it is still working with a budget ultimately set in place by the publisher. They can't just dig into the infinitely deep bank account of Nintendo and the Pokemon Company whenever they'd like. And even though these games usher in the new generation, they only account for a fraction of revenue. Merchandise is where the real money is.
Wait, what was that? Hold on. What was
where
that?
the real money is.
Hold on. What is that? What is that? What is that? Somebody in the comments tell me what is this that I'm looking at. What does that have to do with Pokemon?
And let's not forget, Game Freak is still relatively new to the home console market.
Sword and Shield were the first new generation Pokemon games designed for home consoles, and those played it relatively safe. Apart from the open world wild area, Sword and Shield followed the same structure as previous entries. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were the first mainline Pokemon games to buck the tried and true format. Open world, non-linear progression, new encounter mechanics, and the list goes on. The all too obvious answer here is to throw more time, people, and money at Game Freak, but those things themselves do not equate to a better game. Cyberpunk 2077 was backed by a massive team with an enormous budget, but it still fell short of many people's expectations. We just got Rocksteady's Suicide Squad, which was in development for 7 years, and look how that turned out. Personally, I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet could have greatly benefited from a longer development cycle, but remember, a Pokemon generation doesn't begin and end with the release of a new mainline entry. It sets the stage for years of new merchandise, TV shows, spin-offs, cards, tournaments, and so much more.
It is a massive, multi-billion-dollar machine that's dependent on a small studio to hit hard deadlines regardless of how many roadblocks there might be.
Staffing up also comes with its own set of issues. Game development is insanely complicated, and scaling up doesn't guarantee a better product. New workflows need to be implemented, communication needs to be streamlined, and new hires need to be trained quickly and efficiently. Not to mention, Game Freak uses its own proprietary engine for the Pokemon series, meaning you can't just hire an Unreal Engine artist off the street and throw them in the mix. You need to train them. Remember when CD Projekt Red announced that they would be switching to Epic's Unreal Engine for Cyberpunk 2 and The Witcher 4? They did it because it's much easier to find and train talent familiar with Unreal. Last year there was...
I mean, that makes sense, you know. That does make sense. But I ain't gonna lie, man. Let me explain something to y'all. So I got ADHD, okay? So he's making a lot of good points, but right now my brain going nim, nim, nim. We're gonna go ahead and switch to the next video. All right. But yeah, no, I understand what he's saying as far as the games can't necessarily look better because the portion that owns Pokemon doesn't necessarily have, it can't tap into the deep pockets of Pokemon because it's spread out, you know. But I wish they could get with one of these third-party developers that they work with these other games and do something for Pokemon, because that AAA game they're working on, that mother looks super dope. Imagine if it was a Pokemon game that had those type of graphics. Like, man, all right. But let's go ahead and keep it pushing. I got something else I want to show y'all. All right, check this out. So this is
the Walt Disney Company is a multi.
All right, so this video is called Disney is a law firm that sometimes makes movies. Okay. But yo, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I gotta run to the bathroom real quick, okay? I appreciate y'all sticking around. I would appreciate it if you stayed, you know, for a second. I'll be right back, but I've been holding it for a minute, you know what I'm saying? So, but I can't. Hold on, y'all. 1 second. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and get this video going.
The Walt Disney Company is a multinational operation that employs roughly 190,000 people in 45 countries around the world. The company is now responsible for producing entertainment in all forms. Movies, TV shows, broadcast news, theme parks, cruise lines, sports, and even Broadway shows fall under their expansive corporate umbrella. But Disney is not an entertainment company. It's a legal firm that sometimes makes movies.
The blockbuster Disney deal, the parent company of ABC buying many of the assets of 21st Century Fox, creating an entertainment giant.
The Walt Disney Company has acquired Lucasfilm Limited for $4 billion.
Today, I'm happy to announce that Disney has agreed to acquire Marvel Entertainment.
You're not alone in this. The reaction has been pretty surreal. Just a little taste. Phenomenal. Visual masterpiece.
It is the biggest movie event of the year. Who knows, maybe ever.
Part of the reason for all this excitement and hype
reflects the unprecedented secrecy that surrounded this movie.
Executive compensation for listed companies is public information that must be filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission in an annual proxy statement. The statement must include
appreciate
the total
you stuck
compensation of
around.
the company's chief executive officer, chief financial officer, and the 3 highest paid executive officers. It must also include a detailed summary of how performance-based bonuses are calculated. This rule stops executives ripping off investors by secretly paying themselves overinflated salaries. The executives typically listed in the proxy statement are the CEO, CFO, Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Operating Officer, and Chief Technology Officer. It's rare that a Chief Legal Officer makes the top 5. The Walt Disney Company's top lawyer, Alan Braverman, made $21.2 million in 2021 before stepping down and being replaced by Horatio Gutierrez, who is already on track to be one of America's highest paid lawyers in 2023. Gutierrez will earn that money because next to Bob Iger, the company's 2-time CEO, he might be the most important person in the business.
Bob Iger has a pretty stellar reputation in corporate America.
The Walt Disney Company is broken down into 2 corporate verticals. The first vertical is their parks, experiences, and products. This side of the operation covers their sole ownership and management of their world-famous American parks in Florida and California, their park in Paris, France, their vacation club timeshares business, the Disney Cruise Line, and their minority ownership stake in the Hong Kong and Shanghai parks. Additionally, the parks, experiences, and product vertical is responsible for licensing branded merchandise with third-party manufacturers like LEGO and Hasbro. The largest licensing agreement they have is for an entire theme park in Japan. Despite outside appearances, Tokyo Disneyland is not owned or operated by the Walt Disney Company. It's actually run by Oriental Land Company that licenses the intellectual property from Disney directly, something that you will soon see as a common trend. Disney's second vertical is what it's best known for: media and entertainment. This arm of the Disney empire handles content creation through its studios and distribution through theaters, TV channels, cable and streaming services, and more licensing. The basic corporate structure looks like this, but Disney Studios down here is actually 7 different studios.
Wow.
Disney Pictures, Walt Disney Animation Studios, Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, 20th Century Fox, and Searchlight Pictures. So this whole complicated mess is just the basic overview. All these departments do something very important, but this one up at the top has provided value to shareholders by being, above all else, a high-end legal firm, and it excels at this job in 3 different ways. The first way is by lobbying, a task that is typically done by legal groups, but something that Disney has done in-house. Since the goal of lobbying is to change laws in favor of the lobbyist or the group that the lobbyist represents, a strong understanding of the legal system is a prerequisite. According to filings to the SEC, Disney reported spending $46,365,000 on lobbying between 20.
Hey, my bad. I'm gonna go ahead to a different video that I want to react to, because I don't know if there's really much I can add to what this person is saying, and I didn't catch the beginning of it, so I apologize for that. So I'm kind of lost, but I do have other stuff lined up. But if you want to take a look at that video, it's called "Disney is a Law Firm That Sometimes Makes Movies." All right, but I'm gonna go ahead to a different one. All right, this video is the first generation of video game systems. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. All right, let's check this out. The first generation of video game systems. Hold on one second, I'm pulling it up. Okay, here we go. This video is by Almost Something.
In 1966, Ralph Baer was the Equipment Design Division Manager of Sanders Associates, a defense contractor. Baer was sitting at the Eastside Bus Terminal in New York City, trying to figure out other uses for television besides watching TV. It was there that Baer had a radical idea. Use your TV to play games. Baer wrote down the idea in a small spiral notebook, then added it to a 4-page disclosure document that he wrote on September 1st, 1966. Baer didn't know it at the time, but his idea, which would take decades to actually create, produce, and market, would change the world.
Wow.
In today's video, we're going to dive deep into the very first video game systems and talk about how they were invented. That means talking about the systems that are widely regarded as being part of the first generation of home console games. We're also going to take a closer look at the first efforts to create handheld games, something that I think is often forgotten about because even in the 1970s, there were early handhelds.
You know my love for handhelds, and I know y'all love handhelds. So let's take a look.
To start, we will begin at the very beginning, the very first version of Pong. Let's go back to Ralph Baer. Sanders Associates, which was Bayer's employer, did not make video games. They were an electronics contractor for the United States military. Baer, however, was a key staffer in the organization. A largely self-taught engineer, Baer was a German Jew who had fled Germany as Hitler rose to power. He served in the United States Army during World War II, then got a secondary education thanks to the U.S. GI Bill, where he earned a degree in television engineering. By 1966, Baer realized that he could use those skills and that academic background to create something truly special and unique. With a large budget and numerous employees working for him, Baer was able to reallocate resources. This included employees named Bill Harrison and Bill Rush to the creation of a home console system.
That's so dope how, you can go down life on one path and then be introduced to something or introduced to a skill and take your life a completely different path. It makes me think about when Steve Jobs went to college, and I think that he took a class for scripting, like writing, and just he incorporated all of those fonts into the first Macintosh.
1967, Bayer's design was in motion, and he had created a rudimentary version of two-player Pong. That design continued to evolve, and in 1969, Bayer designed a prototype that could be marketed to retailers known as the Brown Box. The system was now ready, and Bayer was able to start to seek out partners who could manufacture the device. General Electric and Motorola both passed. The electronics company RCA almost contracted with Bayer, but ultimately chose not to. However, a staffer who had been with RCA would join Magnavox, and from there, the project was reignited. By 1971, Magnavox and Bayer signed a contract to create the first ever home console system. This would be the beginning of the industry, and the start of the first generation of home console games. Now, before we go much further, I want to answer an important question. What exactly defines the tech behind this first generation? Like all of these conversations around video game generations, the answer is imprecise. After all, it's not like there is a formal generation master who sets limits. However, there are some useful ways that I think we can use to define the first generation of home consoles. First, as you can imagine, the technology was rudimentary and nothing like it is today. The first generation consoles did not contain microprocessors, instead containing discrete logic circuits. These logic circuits limited the capabilities of each system. That's why some systems, like the Magnavox Odyssey, came with game overlays and scoring paraphernalia. Over time, technology improved within this generation, allowing for better graphics and...
They also had something like that, I believe, for televisions that, I guess it was like a faux color. You could put a screen on top of a black and white television and make it seem like you had color TV. I think that was a thing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Scores to be kept on screen. This occurred thanks to the development of customizable integrated units that enhanced the graphical capabilities of each system. I'd argue that the defining characteristic of the first generation isn't so much the graphics, but the games. We are used to having game cartridges that we can take out at will, although newer systems obviously have digital downloads. For early systems, that wasn't the case. Systems were built with integrated games. Some systems could play only one game, while others could toggle between limited games. Funny enough, the Magnavox Odyssey, the first ever home console system, was actually one of the more advanced in this regard. Controllers, too, were different. Really, really different. There were no D-pads, joysticks, or buttons. In many cases, such as with TV Tennis Electro Tennis or the Home Pong series, the controllers, like the games, were part of...
Yeah, I believe the first D-pad, if I'm not mistaken, was on the Game & Watch.
...the system itself. In all cases, even with the Magnavox Odyssey, controllers were just knobs that would turn. This limited gameplay. All you could really do was move parts within the game, but since those parts were usually limited to lines or dots, it didn't really matter all that much. Audio, too, was limited. Typically, all you really got was beeps, boops, or buzzes, if there was any audio at all. Some systems, like the Odyssey, had none.
Them beeps, boops, and buzzes went hard, though, I ain't gonna lie.
From a systems perspective, you have to start with the Magnavox Odyssey. As noted earlier, this system was developed from the brown box that
They love putting that wood coating on things back then. It's like the Atari 2600, like it had like a wood vibe.
was designed by Ralph Baer and others.
Is that a golf ball? They're using a golf ball for a joystick.
During Bayer's time at Sanders Associates. The Magnavox Odyssey was designed to connect to any television, although its name caused many to think that you actually had to connect it to a Magnavox television to make it work. The console connected to TVs via a switch box that allowed players to watch television or play a game. In fact, the Odyssey was the first system that used channel 3 or 4 in order to play. The system itself.
Oh my gosh. Channel 3. Do y'all remember that? They won't know about that these days, man. They just hit the source of the HDMI. Channel 3. I forgot about that.
Was comprised of circuitry that used a diode transistor logic to display graphics and generate the gameplay itself. Like all other systems for this time period, the Odyssey could be plugged into the wall for power. However, it did have a battery option and could actually be powered by 6C batteries. The Odyssey was relatively rudimentary at the time and capable of only displaying one line and 3 square dots of varying.
I ain't gonna lie, man. That channel 3, that made me feel good inside. I forgot all about that.
Sizes. 2 of the dots could be controlled by players 1 and 2, while the third dot was controlled by the system itself. For example, in Pong, players could move their respective dots, the paddles, and the third dot was the ball. The middle line acted as a halfway marker. Aware of the challenges with such a relatively small system, the Odyssey came with additional items to create a sense of immersion. This included graphic overlays that could be slapped on a television. It also included money and scoring items, enabling players to keep score of their games since the system wasn't actually able to do so. Indeed, the Magnavox Odyssey was so new that advertising pamphlets didn't even refer to the system as a home console or video game. They didn't seem to know how to refer to the system, with various options including a electronic game simulator, a closed-circuit electronic playground, a total play and learning experience, and the electronic game of the future.
Wow.
2 controllers were sold with the system, although the system was so new that they weren't even called controllers, but player control units.
Yo, all of this wood panels, man, it's just, I guess that was just a thing of the times because, like, you remember back then, like, in the basements, well, not back then because I wasn't alive back then, but I guess like in the 80s is what I'm referring to, but it had all these wood panel basements.
These PCUs had no buttons and came with 3 knobs that could be turned during gameplay. 1 extra peripheral was sold separately, the electronic rifle, which could be used to shoot dots on the television. 4 shooting games were used by the gun, including Shooting Gallery. As you can see, the gun really looks like a real rifle, which was obviously by design. Interestingly enough, the gun was manufactured by Nintendo.
Wow.
Unfortunately for the gun, there were real challenges with the system.
I wonder if this is the same technology that went into Nintendo's Duck Hunt
system, and rumors abounded that it was only compatible with Magnavox televisions, which wasn't true at all. As a result, the electronic rifle only sold 20,000 units. Despite the fact that it was literally the first home console ever sold, the Odyssey was the only system of its generation that came with more than just a dedicated built-in chip that allowed it to play games. Instead, it came with game cards. The cards themselves were actually printed circuit boards that caused the Odyssey to display graphics differently. Multiple games were available on the same cards. 28 games were ultimately produced for the system, made available on 11 different game cards, and 12 games were included with the system. A really high number. These games included table tennis, which we all know as Pong. Other games were very, very minor tweaks on this model, including soccer and tennis. There were math games like Analogic, chase games like Haunted House, and racing games like Fun Zoo. Promotions for the Odyssey began with advertising in mid-September 1972. As you can see in the commercials and print ads...
Hey, they got Pokemon. Look at me running back. Look.
Began with advertising in mid-September
they got Pokemon.
1972. As you can see in the commercials and print ads, the system didn't so much emphasize the new technology or gameplay as it did the family-friendly aspect of what it could do. The Odyssey was sold explicitly as a family-friendly toy meant to be enjoyed by kids and adults together. The system hit the North American market in October 1972. Its cost was $99, which is about $742 in 2025 money.
Oh my
gosh! It
gosh.
debuted in the United Kingdom in 1973, then Japan and the rest of Europe in 1974. In America, the system could only be purchased through a Magnavox dealer. This added to...
We're complaining about the Switch 2 prices, but look at this. Golly.
confusion that it could only be played on Magnavox televisions. Further harming the system's sales was that ads were run on a regional basis, meaning that Magnavox dealers had to place ads on their own with templates provided by Magnavox. The end of the first year, the system had only sold 72,000 units, a relatively low number, one that Bayer attributed to the high price of the system. Bayer was a little angry at Magnavox, as he felt that the company had, quote, over-engineered the device, thus driving up prices. Bayer was also concerned that the system was being advertised as if it could only be connected to Magnavox televisions. Sales of the unit continued after the 1972 holiday season, and Magnavox...
Because they was probably trying to use it. He was probably just trying to sell consoles. But they was probably trying to use it to drive up the sales for a television, which, I mean, makes sense on their end.
leaned in, engaging in a national marketing campaign and lowering the price of the console to $50. The system also added a Good Housekeeping Institute seal of approval, meaning that the device had been tested by Parents Magazine and could be returned within 30 days for a full refund. This policy probably helped the nervous consumers become more likely to buy the product, and given that the tech was new at the time, this was necessary. More systems sold, including in Japan, Europe, and some South American countries like Venezuela. Indeed, sales got stronger as time went on. During the 1974 Christmas season, the Odyssey sold 129,000 units, its best Christmas yet. By the end of its run in 1975, the system sold somewhere around 350,000 or 367,000 units. It was a success, creating a new industry and leading to the sales of more consoles. This leads us back to a fundamental point.
They got all these different versions of Pong. You can put on a hockey, or you can put on a tennis.
And one that we're going to keep seeing in this video, particularly when we get to Coleco. One of the biggest challenges in the emerging home console industry was that they simply did not have the technology to cheaply create removable media. Games were, by and large, integrated within systems. As a result, if you wanted to sell new games, you had to create new systems. And that leads us here, the Odyssey series, which eventually became the Philips series. In total, there were 8 home consoles released as part of the Odyssey series, in addition to a television that was released with a built-in Odyssey. There wasn't a ton of differences between these devices. The Magnavox Odyssey 100 came with only 2 games, tennis and hockey, and had some buzzing. The Odyssey 200 was the deluxe version of the 100. It came with a third game, Smash, which was squash, and had 4 paddles, although that largely was meant to work as 2 paddles for 2 players, rather than for 4 players. The Odyssey 300 had all 3 games, all improved, and the Odyssey 400 was an improved version of the Odyssey 200, with scoring enabled on the screen. The Odyssey 500 was an improved version on the 400, complete with better graphics, more games, and the first Odyssey to be in color. All of these systems were between $50 and $130, which was quite a bit of money back then. As such, I bet you're starting to understand why the market for home consoles was so confused and oversaturated.
Right.
More versions of the Magnavox Odyssey included the Odyssey 3000 and 4000. All improvements, such as they were very incremental. They included switches for skill levels, the ability to customize certain games like Pong, newer cases, detachable joysticks, newer games, and more. A prototype for the
I mean, they were in the beginning stages, so you know, they were getting it together, and they wanted people to, you know, come along for that ride with them with their with their wallets.
Magnavox Odyssey 5000 was also produced, but never sold commercially, giving way to the Magnavox Odyssey 2. The Magnavox Odyssey series disappeared in 1976, replaced by the Philips Odyssey series. The name change was due to a change in ownership. Philips purchased Magnavox in 1974, and the name changes began shortly thereafter. New systems, the Philips 200, 2000, 2001, and 2100, were produced and sold in Europe. In most cases, these systems were more or less copies of their Magnavox counterparts. No story about the first generation of home console games is complete without discussing Nolan Bushnell and the beginning of Atari. Many videos have been made about Atari's early days. Hell, I'm probably going to have to do one myself at some
Did y'all know that Steve Jobs used to work for Atari? And they said that he stunk so bad, like they had to send him home, like because he wouldn't put on no daggone deodorant. Like, dude, put on some deodorant.
point. So I don't want to go too deep into this story. The TLDR version is this. Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney founded Syzygy Engineering in 1971 with the goal to produce a standalone computer game and monitor for commercial sales. This would eventually lead to the creation of Computer Space, one of the first ever commercially available arcade games. Computer Space was not a commercial success, but the idea had promise, and Syzygy contracted with Bally Manufacturing, a leading
I like the name of that company, Syzygy.
manufacturer of pinball games to create another arcade game. Using the money supplied to them by Bally, Bushnell and Dabney hired Al Alcorn. After seeing Magnavox's tennis, Bushnell gave Alcorn a test assignment: create a tennis-like game. The assignment was meant to warm Alcorn up and test his skills, but after being told the game was for a contract with General Electric, he took it seriously and designed what wound up becoming Pong. A prototype of Pong would be placed in Andy Cap's Tavern in Sunnyvale, California.
Wait, I'm confused. Didn't they already make Pong? Isn't that what the first 12 minutes of this video was about? Was Pong? So he made Pong, a new Pong. I must have missed something. I'm sorry. Please explain to me in the comments what I missed. I know I can be slow sometimes.
California. It was made from a few cheap parts and a $75 black and white television set from a local Walgreens drugstore. The game was such a hit that it
So he's saying that they're saying that he made Pong for the arcade. Okay.
broke because its quarter tray was too full. The arcade version would be a massive hit, so much so that Atari began to look into expanding their market presence. This required technological advances, but with the development of the large-scale integration chip, it had become possible to take Pong and create a home console version. Atari engineer Harold Lee proposed just that. Alcorn and Lee would work on the project, codenamed Darlene, after an Atari employee. By late 1974, a prototype had been designed, and Atari began to approach retailers. One, in particular, was interested. Sears, the retail giant and one of the biggest sellers of consumer goods in America at the time. Tom Quinn, an employee at Sears, saw potential in the device right away and offered Atari an exclusive deal. Atari, believing that they could find better deals elsewhere, declined. That wound up being a mistake, as traditional retailers found that the system was too expensive.
See, sometimes you try to hold out to get a better deal, but sometimes there ain't no better deal. And then, I don't know if it's going to touch on this, but Sears ended up releasing a lot of different handhelds. I don't know if it's going to talk about that.
Back to Quinn, who Atari ran into again in 1975. Quinn invited Alcorn and Gene Lipkin, Atari's vice president of sales, to the Sears Tower in
Man, I got a foot massager that looks just like that.
Chicago. With a prototype in hand, Atari made the trip and ran into a massive problem. Interference with the antenna on Sears Tower rendered the device inoperable. Alcorn quickly made the needed adjustments, got the system working, and the deal was a go. Quinn and Sears requested 150,000 units by Christmas, more than double what Atari could produce at the time. They signed the deal anyway, and were able to find more capital to expand their manufacturing capabilities. The system, released in late 1975 in North America and Japan, was manufactured under the Sears Telegames brand. It came with 2 paddles and 1 game only. The system sold for $98.95, which is about $600 in today's money. It was, of course, not particularly advanced, given that it only played 1 game.
Could you imagine? See, we over here tripping off. Are we just broke? Like, maybe it's because eggs are like $19 for a carton, but we over here complaining about Mario being potentially, Mario Kart being potentially $80. They dropping $600 a game. Man, we just broke, man.
Game.
Can name one game that you would pay $600 for? Is there any game that has $600 worth of replay value?
To the point, its sales were reduced, with only 150,000 units being sold. By 1976, Atari moved on and sold their own version of the system, separate from Sears. However, that was not before Atari faced down a major threat in the form of a lawsuit from Magnavox. Ralph Baer had clearly invented Pong first. His version of tennis was barely...
Okay, I didn't miss something. I'm like, they already invented Pong. How they reinventing a game that was already like, what? Okay, I ain't gonna lie, man. I felt stupid. Okay.
Distinguishable from Pong, and Bayer had kept extremely detailed records which proved he invented tennis back in 1966. It had also been proven that Bushnell had...
He didn't invent tennis. He invented electric tennis.
Played that version of tennis. Without the funds to pursue the case, Atari settled and became a licensee of Magnavox for $1.5 million.
Wow.
Magnavox was also able to obtain information on any of Atari's products over the next year. This, in turn, delayed the release of the Atari 2600 by a few months, allowing Atari to obviate the legal need to turn over information to Magnavox. And then there was Coleco. Unlike other names in the first or even second generation of consoles.
Did you have a ColecoVision. I had one. I bought it off eBay. It didn't work, but I didn't care because I just could say I had a ColecoVision.
Consoles, Coleco was not an obvious choice to enter the new video game market. Coleco Industries was founded in 1932 as the Connecticut Leather Company, where it supplied leather and shoe materials to clothing manufacturers. By the
What on
1960s, the leather portion of the company was sold, and Coleco began to make above-ground pools. The company continued its diversification efforts, purchasing toy companies. Sensing an opportunity in the 1970s, Coleco entered the video game market and wound up producing one of the biggest hits of the era, albeit not without some major revisions to its original.
How you go from creating, from making belts to making pools to making video games? But like, to be honest, Nintendo had kind of the same story because Nintendo didn't start off, as a video game company. They started off, I believe, as a card company in Japan. And Nintendo was a lot of things. Like, they had a taxi company, they had a hotel. And it was kind of known for, being promiscuous at Nintendo hotels. Like, that's kind of what their reputation was.
System. The first version of the Coleco Telstar, released in 1976, looks very familiar to those of you who have seen these systems before. It came with 2 fixed pedals and 3 games: hockey, handball, and tennis.
So everybody just selling Pong. You got all these different options to play Pong,
of which were basically Pong variants. A toggle switch on the front panel enabled users to switch between games. Before the system could be released, it had to pass interference tests from the United States FCC, or Federal Communications Commission. And there, it ran into problems. Coleco failed the tests, as the machine was generating radio interference.
Oh,
Coleco
wow.
couldn't fix the problem on their own, and wound up calling in Ralph Baer, yes, that Ralph Baer, who created ferrite ring.
Could you imagine you just trying to play ColecoVision with your family, and like your ColecoVision is like messing up all of the airplane signals in the sky? That's crazy.
Things that blocked the interference and solved the problem. The Telstar was approved for release and hit the market on Father's Day, 1976. It was priced under the Atari Home Pong console, and that made it an immediate hit. However, this machine was just the start for Coleco. In the end, owing largely to the impossibility of creating removable media, there were 14 different versions of the Coleco Telstar, each seemingly more ridiculous than the last. Some versions, like the Coleco Telstar Classic, were barely even upgrades of the original system, coming with slightly different casing or a stand. However, some of these systems did come with new features, new games, or updated graphics.
Yo, if you're watching this, it's nothing for you to like and subscribe. I'm on my journey to 1,000 subs. Please help me out. You know what I'm saying? And if you like it, more people will take a look.
For example, the Coleco Telstar Ranger came with a light gun and 3 new shooting games. It also came with new features like automatic or manual ball control and experience levels. In 1977, Coleco released the Coleco Telstar Colormatic. As the name implies, this system was breaking into color games, with color graphics now being available. 1977 also saw the release of the...
Oh, that looked tight. I will buy that now. I don't know what it plays, but I would buy that. That look dope. They need to make a joystick like that.
Combat! Yes, there is an exclamation mark, and as you can see, wow, is this different looking. This system came with 4 joysticks and began to push home consoles into the traditional shooting area. It came with 4 military games: Combat, Night Battle, Robot Battle,
and Call of Duty.
and Camouflage Combat. The Coleco Star Gemini, released in 1977, came with 4 pinball games and 2 light gun games, marking a total break from the traditional Pong games of the past. Finally, the last model, the Telstar Arcade.
Hey, yo, that's hard. Yo, imagine that with Grand Theft Auto. Okay, you whipping, you got the blicky, you just pull that mug out while you whipping. Okay, I see what they was going for.
It is perhaps the most unique. It comes with this truly odd triangle design that contains a steering wheel, light gun, and paddles. Multiple games could be found on this system. The Coleco Telstar was a commercial success. Combined versions of the system sold more than 1 million units, making it the most successful North American home console system. Coleco's success was largely built around the prescience, the first generation of home console.
You ain't never gonna find one that don't got tennis.
Systems was powered largely by chips that were produced by Texas Instruments. Texas Instruments, not realizing how popular these systems would be, underestimated demand and
Okay, calculator company getting into video game scene. I see you.
did not make nearly enough chips to fulfill orders. However, Coleco was smart enough to place their order early, resulting in the company getting their full allotment of ordered chips, something that not every home console maker could say. I think it's worth noting that, as undeniably strange as this system looked, they knew what they were doing. The multiple systems allowed for more games and variants than almost anything else on the market at the time, thus ensuring that Coleco was well positioned to not only avoid repetition and players getting bored, but ensure that there was enough gaming material for interested parties.
I wonder how Coleco fell off.
It is truly creative, not just a cash grab, something that quite a few other systems at the time couldn't say. It also launched Coleco to the top of the home console.
Look at that. Look at this right here. You got tennis, handball, okay, which is just one player pong. Then you got hockey, which is pong with goals.
Console market. The company would wind up selling more than $100 million in game consoles. The previous consoles were largely concentrated on the American audience. The Magnavox Odyssey was released worldwide, although other Odyssey series launches were largely limited to America. Home Pong did see release in Japan, but the Coleco Telstar series was only released in the United States. However, we would be remiss if we did not cover the best-selling home console series of the first generation, even if it didn't see an American release. That would be the Color TV series, which was created by Nintendo. Long before they made the Famicom, Nintendo had a long and storied history in the toy-making business.
See, what I tell y'all, they made playing cards. Y'all thought I was lying. Y'all thought I didn't know what I was talking about.
Including in the video game space. Nintendo's history goes all the way back to 1889, when Fusajiro Yamauchi founded the company as Nintendo Koppai. At the time, Nintendo made Hanafuda playing cards. Over time, the company would grow, go public, and diversify into more toys.
I'm gonna say something about the card company. And my details are a little shaky, so fact check me. But those cards, people use them to gamble with. And I think that like a certain type of card is illegal there in Japan, but Nintendo made these cards and it was kind of like a workaround, like a loophole, something like that.
Company's first electronic toy, and the first ever made in Japan, was the Beam Gun, which sold more than 1 million units. The gun would fire a light beam that would register on various targets. The success of the beam gun, combined with the success of other toys, including the laser clay shooting system and the Wild Gunman skeet shooting game, made Nintendo realize that a profitable future lay in additional electronic toys and home consoles.
So is that like a Nintendo arcade type?
Hiroshi Yamauchi, now president of the company, was able to acquire the distribution rights for the Magnavox Odyssey in 1974. This successful venture led to a partnership with Mitsubishi Electric in 1975. As a result of that partnership, Mitsubishi and the Nintendo Research and Development 2 unit were able to create the Color TV game series. Like the Magnavox and Telstar before it, the Color TV game series came with numerous models. In total, there were 5. The Color TV 6, the Color TV 15, the Game Racing 112, the Game Block Breaker, and the Computer TV game. In the beginning,
here I am thinking that the first Nintendo console was the NES. Man, you learn something new every day.
Nintendo leaned heavily on its partnership with Magnavox. They licensed Pong and used that as the base for their Color TV 6, which had 6 versions of Pong. Sort of. The 3 games, hockey, volleyball, and tennis, were obviously slightly tweaked versions of Pong. Each game could be played as a single-player or 2-player game, hence the 6 games. There were actually some additional customizations available as well, including the ability to increase or decrease the size of the racket and how fast the ball moved. As such, the Color TV system came with customization levels that were previously unseen. The system was simple, cheap, and quick to produce. It sold for 9,800 yen, or $64.68 in 1977. Translated to 2025,
they were smashing the prices.
The system only cost $335, making it much cheaper than every other system available on the market at the time, something that Nintendo leaned into heavily in their advertisements.
Wow. That's kind of like the same route that they took with, the Game Boy. Like, yeah, you guys might have these other heavy duty handhelds that have color and all of this stuff, but we're just going to sell you a cheap product and you're going to like it.
Color TV 6 was released on June.
I mean, really, up until the Switch 2, that's always been their strategy, is to have a console that doesn't cost as much as the competition.
June 1st, 1977, and the Color TV 15 was released 1 week later. When it was first released, the system cost 15,000 yen, though the price would be reduced over time. For the added price, the TV-15 came with more games and detachable controllers. A slider controlled access to the different games, which included 2 versions of tennis, volleyball, and hockey. The game also came with ping pong and a shooting game. 1 year later, the game Racing 112 made its premiere. As the name and steering wheel clearly indicate, the game was made for racing, and it was one of the first home consoles ever made with an enclosed steering wheel. It also came with 2 pedals and an attached gear.
Hey, that look hard. Yo, that part on the right, right here. Hold up. That, you know what they should have made that? A radio. That would have been dope. Like you can switch between the tunes.
Shift. These various attachments made it larger than the other systems, but it was still cheaper, costing only 12,000 yen. The enclosed game was a top-down racer called Speed Race, although that game came with numerous variations, including different sized screens and faster or slower opponents. The game was such a hit that it became a minigame in the Game Boy Advance game WarioWare Inc., which was released in 2003.
That's cool.
April 1979 saw the release of Block Breaker, which sold for 13,500 yen. This system came with 6 versions of Breakout. Not for nothing, but the Block Breaker...
Did Nintendo invent Breakout? Is that a Nintendo original game?
Was the first system ever made by Nintendo, which prominently featured the name Nintendo on the system itself. If the casing of the system looks special, there may be a reason.
I did not know that Nintendo had all of these home consoles before the NES. If you knew that, let me know.
For that, it was the first designed by new Nintendo employee Shigeru Miyamoto, the genius behind so many games that we love today, including Mario. As part of the effort to sell the game, some department stores would have competitions. Winners would come home with this Medal of Honor to signify their victory. Finally, 1980 saw the release of the TV computer game, which came with a version of Othello. However, at this point...
Man, yo. Back then, Nintendo giving out medals. Now they charging you to use a product demo on the Switch too.
The second generation of home console systems was well underway, and Japanese customers had access to an array of updated systems. As such, dedicated consoles, like the TV game series, were starting to become less popular, despite the fact that the TV computer game was essentially an arcade-perfect version of Othello. The rarity of these systems made them a collector's item. Even back in 2009, versions of the TV computer game were selling on eBay for as much as $2,000. All 5 of these systems were huge hits, despite their limited release in Japan only. The TV Color 6 and TV Color 15 sold 1 million units each. The Racing 112 and Block Breaker sold 500,000 units each, meaning that the system in total sold over 3 million units, making it the most commercially successful of the first generation of home consoles. All 5 systems were sold until 1983, when they were replaced by the Famicom. It goes without saying that the Famicom, Nintendo Entertainment System, and everything else produced by Nintendo would never have been possible if the Color TV series had not been such a major commercial success. By making a real impact on consumers, Nintendo was able to create a profitable line of toys. I'd also argue that the initial success of the series, followed by the market's change to removable media via game cartridges, showed...
Which I'm actually going to do a video about the guy who invented the game cartridge. I've been procrastinating, ADHD kicking in, but the dude who invented the game cartridge was a black guy, and I got a book about him from the library, which is overdue, and they're telling me I need to hurry up and return it, and I'm not allowed to renew it anymore. But yeah, I'm gonna do a video about him. It's pretty dope.
Nintendo what they needed to do with their next generation of home console systems. Now, just to be clear, these were the major best-selling home consoles, but they weren't the only ones. There are dozens of home console systems. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, why haven't I heard of these? Why don't I remember them at all? Well, a huge chunk of them were straight-up rip-offs or slightly tweaked versions of other systems that were released in different regions. For example, in 1973, the Overcall was released by Interelectronica in Spain. This machine was described as a clone of the Magnavox Odyssey, which is funny considering that another company, C. Lorenz AG, actually made a European version of the Odyssey in 1973. That, I think, speaks volumes about the sheer number of consoles that were available at the time. Indeed, there were literally hundreds of Pong consoles that were released across the world. Germany had the TVG-10, the 9017 color.
So was old boy getting paid off of all of these people using Pong? I know that he sued Atari, but what about all these other people who are using Pong? Is he licensing it out? Like, how is this working?
TV game, the Poppy 9015, and more. Australia had the TV game system. The United Kingdom had 3 systems by Radiofin, the Acitronic Telesports 4, and more. France had the Paris Video CB812. You get the idea. Now, there was some creativity and differentiation among these more minor systems. Italy saw the release of the TVG 872, which was part of the PC50X series. Other versions of this console, including the Gammatic 8600 programmable video game and the CX336 game cassette system, were released in Korea and Spain. Some systems, like the 90TV game, released by Poppy in Germany, had Pong, but also had racing games. Systems, like the Hong Kong TV Sport, released by Soundic, were Pong, but came in color. RCA released the Studio 2, which came with a built-in keyboard instead of a joystick or knobs. The system also came with 5 built-in games. Heck, even Atari experimented with some new dedicated systems. For example, the Stunt Cycle C450 came with 4 racing games, and the Video Pinball C380 was a home pinball console. However, by and large, these systems were all Pong.
That's cool. I would get that, the Video Pinball, but that don't look like, hold on, I'm trying to look at these pictures. That don't look like the pinball I know of.
And Pong games. Pong was such a massive hit that its success was cloned over and over and over again on a slew of systems that were too numerous for us.
That's crazy that he made such a good idea. Like that the first system, like he straight hit a home run, knocked it out of the park with the game. People still play Pong to this day. Like I would play Pong. Pong is a fun game. But the fact that he knocked it out of the park that hard that so many people made money off of that idea, that's crazy.
To be able to accurately cover. The vast majority of the games that were released during this period were Pong consoles, and since most games didn't have any sort of removable media, that was all these consoles would be. It's no wonder, then, that the word oversaturated quickly became the best way to describe the growing home console market. If you know about the 1983 video game crash, link in the description below, then you likely know that oversaturation and a lack of differentiation was a huge cause behind the crash.
And E.T.
What you may not know is that there was a lesser video game crash during the heart of this generation, 1977. The 1977 crash, while not being nearly as catastrophic, did have some important hints about the far more devastating crash that would occur 6 years later, and led some to believe that video games were truly only temporary. In this crash, once again, oversaturation was the culprit. With a massive number of home consoles available on the market, most regular customers had no idea what console to buy, and all suffered accordingly. As noted in the Ultimate History of Video Games, Magnavox and Atari were forced to sell inventory at heavily reduced rates. By 1978, Coleco lost more than $22 million and had to destroy over 1 million unsold Telstar units.
Okay, so that answers my question as far as what happened with Coleco.
Companies like RCA, which was selling the Studio 2, lost money on their product, selling barely more than 64,000 units, and ultimately...
Ooh, that is ugly. That is an ugly console. They've been showing some consoles that look kind of cool, but that is ugly. That beige and brown, that look like one of the telephones that I used to use back in the 90s when it still had the cord. That looked just like a telephone. It was hideous.
Leaving the industry for good. Fortunately, this crash helped prune the field, and when the second generation of consoles began a few years later, there were fewer systems. Handheld games were not as popular during this era as their home console counterparts, and let's be honest, that makes sense. The games just weren't that good. However, that's not to say that they were completely unsuccessful. In fact, in at least one case, a handheld system sold more than other home console systems of the generation. The first handheld game created was Auto Race, sold in 1976 by Mattel, marking Mattel's first entry into the video game market, and certainly not their last. The only mechanical component of this game was the on-off switch and the controls. In the game, the player controls a car. Opposing cars move towards the player, and the job of the player is to move their vehicle out of the way. The object was to beat the game in the quickest time possible, with ratings being given to players who were able to complete the game in a set amount of time. The game was relatively simple, although it did come with a 1 through 4 gear that altered the speed of the game. The game also came with minor audio sound effects, including little bleeps and bloops. The game actually came from a simple source, a calculator. Mattel engineer George Kloss was inspired by arcade games featuring cars. As such, he took a calculator and used the individual displays for the purpose of creating cars. The game was very successful.
Wow, so using the inspiration of a calculator has apparently been used multiple times when inspiring people to make handheld games, because that's what inspired them to make the Game & Watch. Was I can't remember the creator of his name, but he was on a subway or he was on a train and he saw someone playing on their calculator, and he thought, man, that would be pretty cool, if it was like a handheld game. So
even at its relatively expensive price of $25, which is around $140 in 2025 money. In fact, the game was such a hit that the Soviet Union would clone the game. Known as the Elektronika IER-01, this game premiered in Russia in 1983. Auto Race was such a hit that it had a major impact on Mattel. Mattel would use the game's success to create the Mattel Electronics division. That, in turn, led to the creation of other handheld games, including sports games like football and tennis. In 1979, Mattel officially entered the home console market with the relatively powerful Mattel Intellivision. The most powerful handheld game of this generation was the Merlin.
I had an Intellivision too that didn't work, and I bought it off eBay, and I bought it just to say that I had an Intellivision.
It's important to clarify what the Merlin actually was. First, it was nothing, and I mean nothing, like the Game Boy or any other similarly situated system. The Merlin kind of looked like a funky red phone. It contained 11 squares, each with an LED light. 4 buttons on the bottom of the Merlin allowed for players to select or control the games. Despite its strange shape and size, the Merlin came with 6 games: Tic-Tac-Toe, Music Machine, Echo, Blackjack 13, Magic Square, and Mind Bender. It packed all of this into a CPU.
Yeah, my mind is definitely bent.
That had a mere 48 bytes of memory. The Merlin was actually wildly commercially successful.
Wow.
It sold more than 5 million units.
Oh
it
my
was the best-selling
gosh.
toy in America in 1980, moving more than 2.2 million units that year.
What?
The game was so popular that a Master Merlin, which contained more games, was released shortly thereafter.
Oh,
In
snap.
1995, the toy was re-released again, this time as Merlin, the 10th Quest. Not
I am shocked. I've never heard this.
bad. There was also the Milton Bradley Microvision, which made its premiere in 1979. The Microvision varied wildly from other systems at the time in that it didn't contain an internal CPU. Instead, each game did. That made the system revolutionary for multiple reasons, chief of which is that the Microvision became the first handheld system ever made to use cartridges rather than internal media only. The Microvision went on sale in November 1979, priced at $49.99 or about $220 in today's money. The console itself was an extremely small LCD screen that was powered by a 9-volt battery. The small screen, a mere 16 by 16 pixels, kept power consumption down, but it obviously limited the graphical capabilities of the machine. Only 12 games were available for the system, another dampener on sales. Further hampering its long-term commercial viability is the numerous technological problems that the device encountered, which included screen rot, damage to the microprocessor, and tearing of the keyboard. All of this made the device much, much less durable than it needed to be. Only 150,000 units were ever sold. The Microvision is actually the perfect place to stop our examination of the first home console generation because it straddled the line. Its removable media probably makes it part of the second generation of systems, but its relatively poor machine quality, time of manufacturing, and low-grade graphics also make an argument for its inclusion as a first-generation system. Regardless, home console generations always overlap, and in 1976, the second generation of home console systems began with the introduction of the Fairchild Channel F. Produced by Fairchild Camera and Instrument and designed by Jerry Lawson.
That's the dude. That's the dude whose book I said I checked out. Hold on. I'm gonna try to hold on. I'm gonna get the book. Hold on. See, I told y'all that's the dude. Hold up, let me get it closer. Hold up. See? Jerry changed the game. I'm gonna do a video about him. My ADHD is like ADHDing. All right, my bad, y'all. I got excited. I wanted to do it for Black History Month because I thought that would have been super dope, but it'd be hard having ADHD sometimes. I ain't gonna lie.
The Channel F, the F was for fun, was boundary breaking in many ways. It was the first home console system to use game cartridges and the first to be based around a microprocessor rather than more primitive electronic systems. For its time, the system looked incredibly sharp and was capable of producing more colors than anything else on the market. It sold more than 310,000 units before its 1983 discontinuation. A solid number, but nothing compared to the granddaddy of this generation and one of the most successful home console systems of the time, the Atari 2600. But that's a story for another video. Thank you so
See, they got that wood grain on that Atari 2600 too. They love that wood grain back in the day, for real.
much for watching this one, folks. It was obviously longer, but the response to the 1983 Crash video that I did was good, so I figured we'd make a run of this. If you liked the video, please let us know in the comments below, and as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts about what to record next. More importantly, if you liked the video, please like it.
Yeah, that was a great video. He did a lot of research, so shout outs to him. What's the name of this channel? Hold on. His channel is Almost Something.
Ranking all of my controllers on their joysticks.
I
And
clicked
6 is
something wrong, but it was Almost Something. That's the name of his channel. So go ahead and make sure that y'all go check out his channel. Seems like he got some dope stuff going on. All right, let's go ahead to the next video.
that.
Oh, that video, I'm not watching that tonight. That video, 36 minutes long. Sorry. All right, I got a lot of stuff, but I'm just trying to pick a video. I don't feel like watching something that's 36 minutes at 2:30 in the morning. That video we just watched was pretty long. Okay, let's see.
Platforming game.
Dang, this video
Racing
28
game.
minutes. Golly, why is every video long? Can I get something 8 minutes to react to? If I click another one, then it's long too. We might just have to save this for another day.
Being so ingrained.
In this video, 20 minutes. All right, y'all. It's been real. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Please, please subscribe, okay? I am on my journey to 1,000 subs. Thank you for everyone who has subscribed. I appreciate everybody who tuned in, especially how late it is, man. Y'all need to go to sleep. Y'all probably got to go work in the morning. So I appreciate y'all kicking it with me. And salutations to the nations. Peace.